Handoff, Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands.
Hello there, Minnesota Vikings faithful. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. We have 2.5 people with us this evening. I am Kyle West.
Kyle
Smith.
Kyle Smith. That's
And
I'm here too.
He's got half of a voice tonight, but he will still be with us, as always, Mr. Adam Carlson.
Half might be a bit generous, but I'm here.
I've never been good with fractions, so I am going to give you a half.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah. So we got episode number 140 of the Purple People podcast. I Want My Baby Back, Adam. Lovely title as always.
Absolutely, since we're going to be discussing the running back position on the team this week.
We have running backs. We also have fullbacks we're going to talk about, too.
Excellent, excellent.
But before we get to that, you know what we got to do? We got to hit some stuff quickly. We got some quick hits.
What an honor to take over Adam Carlson's quick hits. I know how much you love them. We love them. But let's just dive right in. I think Mr. Kyle West is going to talk about a certain tight end that we picked up this week.
The Minnesota Vikings have signed former Packers tight end Brandon Bostic to a contract. You will, of course, remember him from fudging up that game for the Green Bay Packers on special teams. But, like I was talking about before we started recording with Mr. Kyle Smith, I actually like the signing, and I don't think that that one play should define this young player's career. I am happy to have him on the team. I think it is good training camp depth to have him come in. Good competition for Kyle Rudolph and the rest of our tight ends on the roster. And I think this is the most Rick Spielman move that he ever could have possibly made.
It's true.
I
was actually pretty thrilled with this move too. Not because I think he's a fantastic player or any of that stuff, but he's had 2 years where he's caught a touchdown in each season. He's got 123 yards on the season. His major gripe right now is that he made a mistake on special teams going for the ball instead of blocking the guy in front of him. I don't think that's a mistake that'll be made in Minnesota's special teams.
No, like you said, he's a young player. He's 25. He's got a good height, weight thing. Like, he's the kind of guy you look for in a tight end, 6'3", 250. Like, he's young. I feel like we have a better coaching staff than Green Bay. I could finally say that now. And so we'll get him coached up, and we'll give him a good opportunity to make the squad and help in any way possible.
One of the fun stats about him is that in his career with Green Bay, he's caught 9 passes. 6 of those were for first downs, and 2 of them were touchdowns.
I like that.
That's awesome. I think, if I could chime in for a second, I think he's famous for a lot of the negative reasons right now because it's so fresh. But as I'm going to transition into the other quick hit, the thing you got to focus on here is competition and depth. And you can only look at the positives. We can go back in time and pick any player you want and focus on their most negative play. Everybody has them. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. Everyone's got a negative play they're famous for. But you can't focus on that because if all he did was have negative plays, he wouldn't be in the NFL. He wouldn't have been on the Packers of all teams. And, you guys know I can't stand him. He's not going to make their 53-man roster if he's just making negative play after negative play. So, like you said, very well said, Kyle. I think it is a very Rick Spielman move. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, that's fine. We'll cut our ties, but who knows? Maybe he can be a motivator. Maybe he'll even find his way on the roster at the beginning of the season.
Low cost, possible high reward.
I love those moves. Love them.
Well, in other news, So awesome. This is so weird taking your spot, man. I hope you feel better, but I don't mind throwing this out there and doing your other quick hit. The Vikings have signed former CFL linebacker Brian Peters. I'm going to give you a little who's who on Brian Peters. He is 27 years of age. College was Northwestern, and he played the last 2 seasons with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. What a badass name that
I like
is.
that. Is badass name.
It's like a rugby team.
Yeah.
Last season, he was their Chad Greenway. He led the team in tackles, had 78 total tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions, and 1 for a touchdown. And like I hit on earlier, the key words you need to focus on here, if you're like, why the hell did the Vikings sign a guy from the CFL? Depth and
Depth.
competition. If you're going to be successful in the NFL, and this is going to translate into a new segment I hope to do every week for a bold statement that I'm going to talk about later in the show, is depth. Every team is going to withdraw and consume and occur injuries throughout the season. Look at Matt Castle last year. I, for one, did not want Teddy to start last year, but he went down, next man up. And take a look at it. Brian Peters is a linebacker. A lot of people, including myself, think that's a high priority. What says he doesn't make the practice squad? What happens if he helps Audie Cole play better, or Gerald Hodges comes back and has another game where he does a little fancy 180, 360, whatever pick six? You see where I'm going with this.
I
So
totally.
I love the signing of this. Like Adam said, low cost, high reward, and that's really, really smart on our upper echelon.
This is the time of year where teams collect talent, and you try to get them from wherever you can. You look at the CFL, you look at players released from other teams like Brandon Bostic. And it is all about just bringing in talent because you want to have the most competition that you possibly can when it comes time for training camp and preseason. I don't know anything about Brian Peters. I'm gonna have to look up some highlights or whatever on YouTube. But anytime that you're bringing in guys, you gotta have faith in our coaching staff that they're being brought in for a reason because they're talented. So I like the deal. Anytime you can bring a guy in who you said he led his team in tackles last season. Well, that
78 tackles. And think about this. Anybody that knows Mike Zimmer came from Cincinnati. There's a guy named Vontez Burfict. He's a linebacker, and he was unheard of until Mike got a hold of him. I'm not saying that Brian Peters could do that, but if anybody could take a player and take their potential out of him, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's our coach. So
The only thing I know about Brian Peters is that he had an impressive Grey Cup game where he had multiple tackles and was all over the field. So based on that, I like the signing. I don't know enough about him to really endorse him by any means, but I think he's a good body to bring into camp and compete.
Oh, speaking of competing, and here we go. We're going to go straight down the line on this one.
Running backs, woo!
Woo, woo.
Adrian Peterson, we got to do it.
What an eventful last 7 days this man has had.
Yeah.
It's been crazy.
All right, let's start up at the top here. I was telling Kyle West before we started the show, just BSing around. I watched a lot of stuff on my Vikings app on my phone today, and Mike Zimmer clearly addressed and said they will not look for a running back in free agency. So if a lot of you got disappointed on thinking we might have Mr. Skittles, the rainbow himself in purple, or one Mr. DeMarco Murray coming off his impressive contract season, don't get too excited about it.
Which is understandable. If they were going to pay a bunch of money for an aging running back, they would keep Adrian Peterson. Just because we won't look for one in free agency doesn't mean that they will not address that in the draft that's coming up.
As things develop, look for all this to change.
Well,
Everything.
yeah, it's very much an influx situation right now.
It's been a dramatic week, and I'm not a personal fan of seeing this side of Adrian. Now we got to go on counts of it's a lot of he said she said, but I'm not a fan of the drama. So like Adam said, once March 10th hits and once April 15th hits, expect to hear a lot more about this. We could have very well seen Adrian in his last Viking game against the Rams last year, but who knows? I mean, maybe the Vikings won't let him go, but we're gonna keep going with that.
Well,
Do you know what's really sad though? Adrian Peterson is gonna ruin my birthday.
When's your birthday again?
April 15th.
It's funny because mine is March 10th. When what significance is going on March 10th? I just heard it today, and I was like, wow, that's on my birthday. Something about the draft or the free agency or whatever.
Oh,
Something's going
nice.
on both of our birthdays, and it's just AP. You're absolutely killing us with this.
I share a birthday with Johnny Cash, so I feel like I win.
On a side note, though, D'Angelo Williams just became a free agent today.
I did see that.
Carolina Panthers all-time leading rusher. I'm from Charlotte. That man is a saint in the community there, and that is.
It's a
I think we all
surprising
saw that
move.
coming. I thought it was pretty easy. I got to be different on the show. He didn't play much of any football in the last 2 years, which is understandable. And Jonathan Stewart was just killing it while he was out. But sad to see him go. I don't know. I don't know if it was premature or not, but I know Charlotte loves him.
That would be an interesting veteran presence for the Vikings to bring in. Back to Adrian. We're wandering off topic. Back to
Sorry
back
about
to
that.
Adrian. The report coming out is that he wants to play for Dallas, and that the Vikings, however, are not willing to make a trade for him as of right now. Like Adam said, this could
Yeah.
all the trade stuff could completely change tomorrow. We don't know.
That report came in from Jason Cole,
Mhm.
who said that he heard it from a high-level NFL official. Which, when you have someone who's willing to attach their name to a rumor,
Mhm.
normally that'll take some sort of, uh, I don't know, like you take it a little more seriously.
It lends more credibility to it when you can attach a name. When you hear the old anonymous sources say blah blah blah, you're just making stuff up at that point. I mean, you could be for all that we know. When you attach someone's name, I do feel like that holds more weight to it.
Also, to
As
tag
much as I
along with
like
this,
Jason Cole,
Hmm.
I don't put as much stock in him as I do other people
Well,
like Jason Lockenfora
I was just gonna
or
say,
Adam Schefter, or the big
Mhm.
names.
when this has Jay Glazer's name attached to it, you pretty much know that shit's gone down. This is real.
Mhm.
Everyone else, I mean, you take it for what it is, but having, like I said, having his name to it, I think does mean that there is a little bit more than just hearsay.
I hope this isn't premature because we're going to talk about the team's needs today and running backs and fullbacks. But seeing as how there were reports earlier this year and late into 2014 about Adrian contacting Jerry Jones, I believe this is true personally.
Of course, he wants
Um,
to play for the Cowboys. I mean, he
he's
grew
from
up.
he's from Texas. I
Let's be
mean, why
real.
would
Exactly, he grew up in Texas. Of course, he wants to have the star on
And
the side of his
the other
helmet.
thing that people, we've talked about, but more and more I think about it, what better way? Adrian wants to be the all-time leading rusher. What better place to want to do that than your home state and for the team that Emmitt Smith used to play for? There's a lot of weird, crazy things that you could attach to this, but I'll save my rant for later about AP. It'll be very short, but I personally, I don't think he's going to play for the Vikings again. I think he wants a fresh start somewhere else. And where better to go than the state of Texas? I don't think the Texans are going to take him with Arian Foster being on the roster, but
You never
we'll
know.
save that for later.
Um, Vikings executive Rob Brzezinski, he's what, the COO of the Vikings, I believe, got in a heated exchange with Adrian Peterson's agent at the NFL Combine. Supposedly, these guys were like ready to have a WWF wrestling match.
Which we completely condone.
Yeah, which would be awesome. Someone
Oh
videotape
yeah.
that. But apparently someone had to step between them, and it was getting extremely heated. Rob Brzezinski is apparently the guy within the Vikings who did not want Adrian back. You can read into that statement whatever you want, because the three of us, we don't work at Winter Park. We just go
No.
on what we hear and what we read. But so there's another wrinkle to add to the whole AP situation.
Right, and ESPN's Josina Anderson said that Jason Cole's rumor about Peterson demanding a trade, or at least requesting a trade, and contacting the Vikings is not true. So, as much as like I said, as much as I like Jason Cole and some of the work he's done, I'll take ESPN's Josina Anderson and her methods of getting facts
Mhm.
over Jason Cole's.
And then we also have Adrian Peterson's father saying that no trade demands or salary cuts have been discussed and his son is open to playing with the Vikings. So it's like you have a negative story that comes out between Peterson's agent and the Vikings, and then you have his father kind of doing damage control at the same time, and there's just a whole bunch of shit that's going on right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait for this to be concluded one way or the other. Like,
But you know that once this is over, it's going to be like the Love Boat 2 or something. Something's going to be next.
nah. I really feel that with the staff we have in place, that these odd situations should be behind us. Now, I realize the Adrian thing is what it is, but hopefully we're done with Love Boat, that kind of junk.
Time will tell. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just completely caught off guard. And I think the thing that angers me the most about all this is I obviously from a football standpoint, we never wanted AP to be gone ever. But
Yeah.
from a personal standpoint, I see a little bit of Brett Favre in this guy that and everybody there's a side I love Brett. He's my favorite football player. I've told you guys this many times, but there's a side of Brett that we all can't stand. And I'm seeing a lot of that come out in AP, playing the victim. A lot of people are sick of that, me included, about the situation. Oh, people didn't want me. Well, what you did was pretty freaking terrible.
It,
Now, I'm all about second chances,
Mhm.
but I don't I this just doesn't this is furthermore keeping to me that he's not going to play for us anymore because this is getting ugly and it needs to be not talked about until the time comes where he is off the exempt list and then we can make a choice and move forward.
Here's
from
my little mini rant on it. I don't need Adrian Peterson to tell me that I'm making him feel bad for feeling the way I do about what he did.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's just redirecting the blame, pointing the finger around. And when the first
Mhm.
thing you say is that you have to worry about your company, your image, and your brand, not your fan base, not your career, not your livelihood, not your family, your brand. That's just not cool to me.
No, it's not. And you're hearing all this stuff coming out now as well about how it's not just Adrian maybe wanting to stay or not stay in Minnesota. It's coming down to what his what his wife thinks is playing into it. And I feel like Adrian has so many different people pushing and pulling him in different directions that maybe he doesn't even know, what he wants to do at this point because he's got so many different people telling him what they think. And that could be a big part of the reason why one day you're hearing from him, of course he wants to stay in Minnesota. And then the next day you're hearing, screw these guys, I want to go to Texas. Like, you just don't know what to make of it.
Get it? He should shut his mouth, figure out what he needs to do, and apologize for what he did.
I
Yes, the
agree.
apology is what I'm waiting on first and foremost, because one of the things that Roger Goodell said, and you can find this report of what Roger said to Adrian directly. Go on the internet and find it. It's really, really interesting. He said it several times. He's like, I don't feel like you're showing any remorse for the actions that you pled guilty to. You made a plea for this.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest thing that concerns me because from what all we've seen as Vikings fans, he's been a stand-up citizen to Minnesota and the NFL. But up after all this came out, there's just a dirty, nasty side that, I'm sure we all have. We all have a bad side to us, but he's just not doing the things professionally and from a PR standpoint that he needs to be doing like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents on it.
So for now, do you think the Vikings are moving forward thinking that Adrian Peterson will be available? Or do you think they're planning 4 times without him?
If I'm Rick Spielman, I'm looking at Todd Gurley in the draft. I mean, I'm looking at him and I'm going,
Not Melvin Gordon because Todd Gurley just had an ACL.
well, I know I really like Todd Gurley and I feel like he can come back from that ACL and still be an outstanding player. But whoever's name you want to put in there, that's kind of beside the point right now. I'm looking at a running back early in the draft and going, if Adrian's here, the guy we drafted kind of becomes a part of our rotation, our system that we're going to have with Jerick McKinnon. If Adrian is not here, then guess what? We've got two really strong backs in McKinnon and draft pick, plus Matt Asiata as our third back. So you're covered in either or situation, I feel like. So
Keep in mind that Asiata is scheduled to become a free agent this year.
mhm. And, we can make fun of Asiata on the show from time to time, but there will be teams that'll be interested in him because he does have a high number of touchdowns that he has scored. And
I was just going to bring the touchdown thing up. Look what happened to Toby Gerhart. I mean, they picked him up in Jacksonville like that.
Toby had an off season. I don't know what exactly happened with Toby, but I feel like he should have had more production. Anyway, Asiata, teams that have trouble scoring in the red zone will look at him and go, man, if we can just move the ball and get it close enough, you can get it to him. And he was part of a running back by committee system in Minnesota that was thrown in last minute that was able to get, over 1,000 yards between all of them. So that's decent production.
That's 9 touchdowns from him alone, and he's a up the gut, in the middle back. And like you said, red zone, if I'm having trouble, if I'm a team that throws the ball like crazy but can't score, I'm taking a look at Matt Asiata for cheap.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know.
He was the only Vikings running back to score a touchdown this year.
Yeah.
That's another solid point. Jerick McKinnon showed great flashes, but he never scored a touchdown.
Yeah. We gotta know if Jerick can stay healthy and productive.
I would love to see Matt Asiata back. That's just my 2 cents. But I wanted to do this today on the radio for ESPN here in Virginia, and those a-holes cut me off. I waited on hold for 20 minutes, and they skipped to the next segment. So here's my rant. I want the classic Rick Spielman to come out before the draft. I want AP dealt. I want a first-round pick for him. I think Dallas and Jerry Jones would love to have that reunion, and here's my plea for it. DeMarco Murray had a fantastic season, led the NFL in yards last year. Guess what it was for him? A contract year. Guess what happened to him? He got friggin' banged up. Did you see his hand when he was playing in the playoffs? Here's another option. Adrian Peterson tears his ACL. People said he's not going to be the same. He's getting older. He damn near breaks the rushing record. What do you think's going to happen to him if he thinks his brand is tarnished? He's going to come back pissed off. He's going to have a monster year this year, no matter who he plays for. Here's my last rant on that. There are teams outside of Dallas, and I'm willing to bet probably 20 of them out of 32 that would say, I want AP yesterday. I'll take on that debt because he's better than 20 other running backs in the league right now, even being 30 years old. And I'll give you another prime example, and I'll leave this to think about. Dallas already has a fantastic quarterback that is downhill, but he's still got a couple good years in. They have Des Bryant, a fantastic offensive line to block for AP. Think about replacing him with DeMarco Murray, who's banged up from last year, even though he had good production. Here's another one for you, and I'll leave it at this. I'm thinking of one team right now, and I'll leave it up to you two to pick. Think about a team who's a running back away from going to the Super Bowl. Can you guess that for me?
Talk about Arizona.
I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, you're talking the Colts.
They had Trent Richardson, and who was the guy from New York they picked up? I can't think of his name.
They didn't
have a.
Was it Ahmad Bradshaw?
They didn't have a running back, and I'm just throwing out teams now because I'm telling you, AP's going to draw a lot of interest depending on the price, and if somebody's willing to absorb his debt. A team that went to the AFC Championship game, and you got a high-profile passer in Andrew Luck, and you need a running game. I'll pick up AP. That would be just nasty to have those two on the same team. AP's going to get a look at.
Look at what Indy's willing to do to improve their run game. They've already showed that they're willing to commit a lot to it by dealing a first-round pick for Trent Richardson. So that shows that they have commitment to the running game and are willing to invest in a lot in it.
Here's the thing, though. Adrian Peterson is under contract with the Minnesota Vikings. He can, I don't want to play for the Vikings, all you want, but at the end of the day, you're under contract by the team, which means you don't get a pick where you go next. You want to play in Dallas all you want. Guess what? Rick Spielman's going to send your ass wherever the Vikings can get the most value out of you. And if that means you end up in
Cleveland,
you end up in the Raiders, you end up someplace you don't want to go, guess what? You have absolutely no say in this, Adrian Peterson. So you can look at teams and you can go, man, wouldn't it make sense for the Cowboys? It would, but at the same time, does Dallas really want to give up all those draft picks to sign Adrian Peterson? Now, we can assume Jerry Jones is the kind of GM and owner who he would love to have Adrian on the team. But here recently, you got to give the Cowboys credit for doing less of the splashy moves like that and more of the draft-focused, smart building of their franchise.
Absolutely.
I don't think Dallas is going to give up a whole bunch of stuff to sign Adrian Peterson. They have their running back in DeMarco Murray. You can say he's banged up, but you got to feel like that's where they're going to go. And I feel like he's going to stay in Dallas.
He's also 3 years younger than AP.
Exactly. What team is really going to give up a whole bunch for Adrian Peterson? I'm looking at some of the bad teams in the NFL who are going, we need jersey sales. We need fans to show up to sell out games for our stadium. And we hope that we can get Adrian at the tail end of his career and it will spark our offense for some kind of young quarterback. Guys,
Oakland.
Oakland, Cleveland, Jacksonville. Poor Toby. I hope he doesn't go to Jacksonville. I'm looking at some of the bad, desperate teams that are going to be the ones to go, multiple draft picks. Please, can we have Adrian Peterson? Please, can we have him? That's what I think.
But we also have other situations going on, like Jerome Felton at the fullback position.
Was just going to get on the Jerome Felton
man,
train.
I want Jerome back, but Minnesota's not going to do it.
I think they've been grooming Zach Line for too long to throw too much money at him.
Yep.
And we also have some other young guys at running back, like Dominique Williams, Josie Henry, guys that'll be hoping to step up. So, Rick Spielman's going to do the Rick Spielman thing. He's going to bring in a bunch of talent, have them compete for positions, and he won't reach on draft day if a running back is there that he wants.
I think Todd Gurley is going to fall to us in like the second round or something, and I could see Minnesota maybe trading up to get him in the middle of the second to do it. I think that would be a good spot. A fullback, we completely forgot to talk about fullback here. You're 100% right, Adam. They've been grooming Zach Line to take over for Jerome Felton. That's a salary cap move. I don't think it's any kind of indictment on Jerome Felton or his ability. He's still a really good player, and he will go somewhere and be super productive. But fullback's one of those positions that, not a lot of teams really run fullbacks. So we've been grooming Zach Line. You can get away with him because we also have other tight ends who can help out with blocking and whatnot, and we'll be fine without Jerome Felton, even though he was one of my favorite Vikings when he was with the team, the time that he was with the team.
I think the Vikings will try to get him back, but they won't offer anywhere near the close to $2.5 million he was going to make if he hadn't declined his option. And I think that some other team will be willing to pay that for his services. So I believe Jerome Felton's time in Minnesota is done for now. I don't like that idea, but it seems to be the reality.
I'm excited to see Zach Line get a shot with the team, though, because he's a really super kid. And he's worked incredibly hard. And so let's see what he's got. That's one of those really tough decisions that I am glad I am not Rick Spielman that has to make that decision. But that's why they get paid the big bucks.
So true, so true. Jerick McKinnon, I doubted the guy when he was drafted, but he's shown me the kind of elusiveness and speed that you want to see from a running back. Not sure if he's ready for a feature back role in any sort of the word. I think he's better used in a system or in a committee, but Jerick McKinnon will be a valuable asset to this team no matter how they decide to use him in the backfield.
Which I think is fine, because you really look at the teams, like the days of having one feature back are kind of over with. A lot of teams, it's running back by committee, and Jerick McKinnon fills a role, and he is going to be quite a good player for the Vikings for a long time. I really hope. Let's just hope that he doesn't do anything silly to tarnish his name.
Well, it's like you guys said earlier. Remember you were talking about D'Angelo Williams. It's been him and Jonathan Stewart down in Carolina for years now. I liked the combo of Asiata up the middle and then the elusive speed of McKinnon last year. I like that a lot. Then don't forget about Joe Banyard. He can come in and contribute. He's not going to blow everybody away, but he still had a roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
We have running back by committee set up all over the place. We tested that last year against our will.
Trial by fire.
I don't know that the Vikings are going to address a running back I don't think we're going to do it in free agency. I think if we're going to spend, we're going to keep AP because he is the best one around. But if you looked at it in the draft, I don't think the top two are going to be available come pick number 11 in round 2 for us. Those two, and this has come from Mike Mayock because he's like the draft freaking guru. He says, I have them as first round talents, and I know running back is quote unquote a dwindling position and fading away. He's like, these two guys have talent. I think they're going to get scooped up at the bottom of the first round, but I would love to see another Rick Spielman move to come up and get somebody like that.
You
This is a
guys,
somewhat deep draft for running backs, though. There are other talented players at that position available. So don't look at just day one. I mean, there could be some options taken on day 2, or maybe even early on day 3 to try to fill a hole to compete at that position.
mm-hmm.
So don't look at just the premier players. Make sure to take a look down the depth chart there.
Look at what Mike Shanahan was able to do. Mike Shanahan would always pick up running backs in the 7th, 8th round of the draft that you never heard of them, and then he would get
8th round.
Yeah. Did I say 8th? Anyway, you get production out of these guys that you never heard of them, and Minnesota could definitely do something like that as well too.
Oh, sure, there's the hometown boy David Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
People would love to see him come in.
You know what would make me happy if we would just stop fooling around and get Bradley Randall back on the practice squad. I'm just saying.
You don't know how much I want Bradley Randall to show up at that veteran NFL combine that they're doing this year and just tear it up and for some team to sign him because he was such an awesome guy and worked so incredibly hard. Yeah, I hated to see him cut. But
Such a nice guy, too.
yeah, definitely.
Well, if you guys are all set up on running back, team
All
needs,
good.
fullback, all that, I want to start a segment every week, and I told the guys this earlier today. I'm here to get the fans that listen to the show to keep us around it's 140 episodes now. That's awesome. Thank you all for listening. I want to get you talking. Whether you hate me, you love me, you think I'm stupid, you think I'm a genius, I want you to talk, and we love fan interaction. And I'm going to start a segment every week or every other week to keep you interested. Kyle Smith's bold statement. Oh, and there's a lot of tomfoolery going on in the background right now, and I love it. Bold statement of the week. We're not going to number these. We're just going to start it and try to run with it. The Vikings this year, in my opinion, need to draft a quarterback.
Uh-oh.
And everybody goes, what? Are you crazy? Here's what's going to happen in my scenario, and I hope this does not come true. I hope he never suffers a freaking hangnail.
Don't say
but in this scenario,
you do
knocking
it.
on wood, gonna do it. I'm going there.
Uh-oh.
First play of the game, Teddy Bridgewater. Matt Khalil doesn't do his job on the blind side. Suffers a torn ACL. Teddy goes down. We have Matt Castle. I think we'll re-sign him. Christian
those
Ponder is
knees.
all but gone. In my opinion, quarterback. Who are you going to groom? It's all about depth. And I want to say one word, and I'll just let this resonate in your brain for all you NFL, not just Viking fans, NFL fans. Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Best team in the NFL up to about week 11. Carson Palmer making a resurgence. Goes down. Drew Stanton, let's go. Doing awesome. Boom, goes down. You're to your third string quarterback, and you're hanging on for dear life to get in the playoffs. They even had a guy from Virginia here. They threw in for 1 week of practice. Logan Thomas was his name. I don't know how we got to talk about him on the team. Oh, that's right, because I said the Vikings need to draft a quarterback. If you don't have depth at every position, especially the most important one, hey, what's to say the Vikings, and I'm not saying we should go after Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota and Brett Hundley, blah, blah, blah. Teddy's our guy. But what is it too far-fetched, is what I should say, to go to the 5th, 6th, 7th round even and find somebody that you think you could polish? Am I out of my mind here? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
No, actually, you're not. You look at it and you go, well, what is Adam typing? Exactly like a Christian ponder.
Yeah, if you would have went in the 7th round, I wouldn't have been nearly as pissed off about him.
Yeah, he'd have been an okay 7th round draft pick. No, I am completely thrown off where I was even gonna go now. Thanks, Adam.
What? I didn't do anything.
Shit. We could sign McLeod Bethel Thompson back. I would love to have MBT back on the team. But
I personally would rather see another veteran come in. Maybe not one with as much experience as Matt Castle, but I don't think another really young talent is needed to push Teddy just yet.
Well, I think if we're going a veteran, I can.
Brady Quinn's looking to make a comeback. I read about that today on NFL.com.
I'm thinking Tim Tebow. Tebow time and Minnesota.
Don't bring that circus up here.
Yeah, bring it on. Bring on Tim. We need a fullback, right? Jerome Felton's gone. Bring in Tim.
Hey, you know what? Depth is depth. The guy wants to play quarterback. At this point, I could care less. I know it's going to be cheaper, but it's going to be a longer process to groom him. But my whole rant about that, just thinking about it, it made me cringe today. What if you're a New England Patriots fan that your Castle stepped in and you watch Tom Brady go down, like the first game, you're like, well, what's the point of watching football now? You got to be able to depend on the next guy, and you can never be too sure about the guy who's going to be calling the plays and having to change it at the line of scrimmage, man. I wanted to grab everybody's attention because everybody thinks, oh, you don't like Teddy? I love Teddy. But just in case the unthinkable happens, which, knock on wood again, it's not going to, who do you want to come in at number 2?
Tim Tebow.
So
I feel like we're going really long without Adam to direct us from topic to topic.
Heyo.
No, that was an action-packed show. I'm sorry.
Too much Adrian talk.
Yes,
I'm sick
way
of it.
too much.
You picked a good week to lose your voice with all the Adrian stuff going on, because I'm tired of talking about it too.
I'm tired of hearing about it on social media too.
Turn on Twitter, turn off Twitter.
Yes, it's come to the point for me where it's just if it's going to drag out till the very end in April, whatever, March, whatever, I don't care. Just shut up about it until then, and then make a decision. That's where I'm at with it, because I'm with you guys. I'm sick of hearing about it, and I'm sick of hearing the victim card being played. But that's it makes for a lot. It makes the media stay employed. I'll tell you that much.
I understand both him and the organization to do their positioning. You know, the team has to say, oh, he's valuable. He's worth a lot. We want him back so bad, even if they don't. But I don't understand the positioning on the side of Peterson and his agent. I don't even know what's being said there, but what's being spread through the media sure is mess. Absolute mess. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Head on over to the Facebook page. Check us out. Me and Kyle Smith we'll fill you in on all the Vikings doings over there. If you go on Twitter, Mr. Kyle West will be over there. He'll probably enjoy talking to you a little bit about some Minnesota Viking stuff, I think.
Unless you're going to argue about Adrian, in which case I want you to write down all your thoughts on a piece of paper and then eat that piece of paper, because I really don't care to argue with people anymore about Adrian Peterson.
So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.